from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. It's pretty wild. Welcome everybody to Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox. We are the embattled broadcast from the great state of New York, doing our due diligence to bring forth the information that is most paramount to today, to fight against the agendas or the powers that be that don't want this information to be out there. I see we have Andromeda in here. Stone is here. Line is here. I just want to say really quickly to Sugar Bee, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family at this time. I see Neo is here, and we are all thinking about you. You take the time you need. We are here for you. We love you, and when you're ready to come back, we will be here with open arms to give you a great big virtual hug. And I'm sorry for your loss. With all that being said, tonight's going to be something that we're going to kind of shift gears towards, right? We're going to try and take some of the modern topics and we're going to take them and we're going to give a little bit of a galactical position of it, but we're also going to go about the facts of what we think is happening, right? We have a lot of theories about signals coming from outer space or from within the Milky Way. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take our time and go through and break down some of the things that we understand about these signals. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of my perspective on some of the potentialities of what these signals could be. Now, people are going to sit there and say, well, how do you know that? I don't. But we're going to theorize it. And then you be the judge of what you think sounds credible or ready to rock and roll with it. But we are going to go over some of the facts first. So with all that being said, I see Neo is here. I see Tokyo Anna is here. Very, very nice to meet you. Susan is here. Please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to get out this information so we can awaken the masses. Clarence is here. Great to see everybody. The community or the forever student family is in full effect here. We're here to disseminate the information and see where it takes us. So one of the biggest things to help us boost the algorithm is to leave a comment once the stream is finished. Also, at the top of the chat, each and every episode, we have our PayPal link. So if you feel that you want to donate to help progress this amazing platform that we've tried to put together for everybody, all those donations are received with love and gratitude. And all of that money goes back into the broadcast to make it so much better each and every time we get on the air here. So I really am interested about the radio bursts. So I did a little bit of digging, right? And what I come to find is that there is, of course, we all know what SETI is. There is a lot of information at SETI of what these signals are. So we're going to go over a couple of articles that described certain specific I've put a slide presentation together as well. And of course I have my my notes, which I go off of all the time. And what I want to do is I want to talk about certain instances in time. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what some of the underlining factors are to what these signals could potentially be. And we're going to give you a couple of different avenues to look at. Right now, I'm seeing two running theories that are essentially more paramount, I believe, than some of the other things that we've seen. You know, it's difficult to determine exactly what information is, of course, credible or not. But again, all of it is a working theory until we're revealed or until something is revealed that shows exactly what these signals are. All we can do is theorize. But to understand what could be the potential of these apps, of these signals or bursts of signals coming from outer space and coming from potentially extraterrestrial bodies or civilizations, we have to see what the underlying factors are. And one other point of interest that we want to talk about is our own U.S. military. And our own U.S. military is using radio frequency waves to achieve certain goals and measures. So we're going to go over that too and kind of collaborate all of it together. I see Gemini Rising is here as well. Welcome, everybody. So let's get into the slide presentation as we always do, and again, share this out. So, my opening salvo: what the hell is coming from space? Truly, what are we listening to? What and how are these signals coming, and how are we actually receiving these signals is something that we have to, truly understand before we can get into a little bit of what the theories are of these specific signals. Now, I have my own theories and I'm going to lay them out for everybody. Why am I going to do that? Usually I don't interject my own thoughts into some of the presentations. I think this is a definite, valid point that we have to look at, and we have to see if this is affecting humanity the way that I think it is. So, the opening salvo tonight is essentially just knowing that these signals are coming. We've recorded them via specific satellites. They're working on brand new technology to try and break down these signals a little bit more. But one of the patterns that I see arising when we talk about these signals is we will capture these signals, and it won't be until years later that we find something corroborating with inside the signal that was not there before, or we just didn't have the technology at the time to assess the signal properly and see what was happening. So that's one of the articles we're going to go over tonight and why this happened, right? So I have this really, really fundamental feeling that this isn't contact, right? This is There is a contact aspect of it, but this is not the contact in which we're receiving on a significant level, right? We have a lot of people who are in contact with extraterrestrials via things such as telepathy, channeling. There are so many different ways that these signals come through, or these encounters come through. So, why would they want to send low frequency signals via certain bandwidths to the satellites of the United States and Australia and some of these other countries? It doesn't correlate for me. There's something more happening here. And I think the moon may have something to do with it. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But the opening salvo is we question everything. So when we hear about these signals, we really have to sit down and fundamentally question what could be the motive behind these signals coming forward. And why are we just sort of looking at certain things and certain aspects of what we're talking about tonight, and they're kind of blasé to so many different places or governmental bodies and things like that. And it strikes me as something pretty wild, right? And I understand that SETI is maybe not the most credible source, right? But I also understand that NASA is not the most credible source, but there are certain frequencies being picked up. So when we look at what we're talking about via the articles of SETI and some of the different places that sort of report on these types of things, we have to take that with a grain of salt, right? But we know certain things about frequency that have an impact on each human being or each individual light body and soul. So, are these nefarious uh, frequency broadcasts? Are they benevolent frequency broadcasts? I want you all to be the judge, right? And we're going to get into the first encounter from this year. And this is something that happened this year. Now, what happened this year wasn't the radio signal. The radio signal was picked up a while back, but they had gone through a lot of these radio signals to find underlying frequencies. And we're going to talk about that now. And that's kind of what brings us to this topic tonight. And I think it's very important to kind of take not just the advanced information that we've been getting from breaking down a little bit of, some of the works of some of the people who explore the consciousness aspect of the extraterrestrial contact. I think it's really, we have to start going into some of these groundbreaking topics and sort of thinking about the different ways that we see them forming so that we're not caught flat-footed when something else happens, right? So in February of 2023, astronomy experts came across mysterious radio signals that they believe may have come from aliens in outer space. Using specific technologies, including AI, which is another red flag, or deep learning, they call it, astronomers sourced 8 signals to around 5 nearby stars that are located 30 to 90 light years away. These signals were in the form of electromagnetic waves, And the astronomers say that they may have been messages sent by civilizations with technology much more advanced than our own, right? The data was collected by the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia. Bigger than the Statue of Liberty, it is part of the Breakthrough Listening Project aimed at identifying extraterrestrial activity. The pulses were hiding in plain sight, which is a term that, if you are within ufology, hear a lot. The entities could be hiding in plain sight. So why wouldn't their frequencies be hiding in plain sight, right? So among a huge number of recordings from more than 6 years ago is where this comes from. An international team developed a computer algorithm to analyze the unimaginably large amount of information in more detail. The lead author was Peter Ma, an undergraduate from the University of Toronto. And he says, in total, we had searched through 150 terabytes of data of about 820 nearby stars. The data set has previously been searched through in 2017 by classical techniques, but labeling as devoid of interesting signals. So, no targets of interest were originally indicated once they've gone through this data. The new neural network found this wasn't the case at all. A manual re examination also confirmed that the findings shared several of the same key characteristics, which were they were on a narrow band, or a narrow bandwidth, as we call it, meaning that they had a small spectrum of width of just a few hertz, or which is classified as HZ, whereas natural phenomena tend to be a little bit more broad on that spectrum. Even more interestingly, the readings reported in the journal Natural Astronomy were sloped, indicating acceleration, which means that the further it got from wherever it was coming from, the faster it was accelerating, which is usually the opposite, which could show potential intelligent design. They also appeared only when the instruments focused on the specific celestial source and disappearing when it was pointed away, which means that it was a tight transmission. It was a tight beam of transmission, which is something that, it leads a lot to the imagination. And what they would use is radio. This is the ideal way to send interstellar information. It passes through dust, gas, and it goes up to speeds of 20,000 times faster than any of the rockets that we have here on Earth. So many in SETI, which is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, many of these efforts use antennas to eavesdrop on any signal that aliens might be transmitting. And this is kind of where things get a little bit, more in depth in the SETI program itself. And do we really approve of what they're doing, or do we really co-sign with their information? But so a co-author of this is Dr. Cherry NG of the French National Center for Scientific Research. This is also from Paris. These results are dramatically illustrated the power of applying modern machine learning and computer vision methods to the data challenges in astronomy, resulting in both new detections and higher performance. Now, again, this is where we talk about AI, and I'm going to bring it back to me really quickly, right? When we look at AI, the reason why we look at it in such a negative light is because of the people who are in control of it. When we look at AI, if we had this AI within the certain hands of people who are meant to expand humanity, AI can be used to essentially enhance humanity. But it seems as if the powers that be are the ones that are in control of the AI, which in turn turns it to malevolent as opposed to benevolent. And it's all about whose hands are on this technology and who is creating these technologies and for what purpose, right? So when we look at how some of this alien or artificial intelligence machinery is trying to track this alien transmission, that I think could be used for possibly good, right? We're trying to figure out what's in the cosmos. And that's something that we all aspire to learn more about. So let us keep going, because there's a second instance where we're going to, a telescope found something, and we're going to go over that as well, but we're not done with this one either. So basically, the application of these techniques at scale will be transformational for radio technosignatures in science. The researchers are now planning to deploy the algorithm on the SETI Institute's cosmic tool in New Mexico. This is where Jodie Foster heard an alien signal in the 1997 movie Contact. So, again, we see the veil kind of coming away with the art imitating life, life imitating art, and what have you. So it is surveying 40 million stars for technosignatures and evidence of technological alien civilizations that could have developed. And of course, we all know what SETI is, but the massive volumes require supercomputers that are breaking new ground in the quest to answer the question, are we alone? And a single terabyte, just to let you know how big this is, could hold 1,000 copies of the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. So that's 1 terabyte. There was 150 terabytes, which is why it's such a looming task to essentially figure out what this is. So again, we're going over two instances, and we're going to answer questions as we go through them, but we're also going to take it to the galactical point later in the episode. We're going to talk about potentiality of this signal, and some of it may be a little bit more closer to home than we think, right? And I believe that SETI is definitely in bed with some dark folks, absolutely, just like NASA is. But sometimes they dribble this information out, and then while they're behind the scenes, they work on these things, and this technology is updated and something else comes out. If there was alien technology transmissions, they would never want us to know, just like they've done with trying to capitulate the information up to this point. So, is this actual? I don't know. I don't know. But I think that, like I said, I think there's something a little bit closer to home that we can look at for what these signals could potentially be and what they're trying to cover up. And that's why I'm talking about these specific 2 points, because once we get into the later information, it's going to change your thinking of what these points are. Right now, we're talking about them as they see them in actuality, but I think that there is something else to this that they're covering up. So, again, take it with a grain of salt, because this is just exploring what they're putting out there so we can see through the deceptions and lies. That's why I'm talking about these now. I don't want to go into that until a little bit later, but I see that we have some people that are, understanding that SETI is not a great place. It's not a good place. And I agree with you. And I don't want you to think that I'm advocating or vying for SETI or NASA or any of those powers. We have, hopefully my brain is a little bit more capacity than that, but we'll keep going because we got a lot to go over here. So the next instance I want to talk about is December 4th, 2018, right? And you'll see what's recognizable as an asteroid. But from what they're saying now, and this is also from SETI, there might be something more extraterrestrial to this body than just being a rock floating in space. Exactly. Andromeda is on the right path, but this is also creating signal, right? So we were looking for a signal that would prove that this object incorporates some technology. It's the first time a visitor from another star system, whether it be organic or inorganic, has been seen nearby. But what is it? An asteroid, a comet, or an alien artifact? Scientists at the SETI Institute have attempted to address this question by using the Allen Telescope Array, which is called the ATA, to observe what they call I can't ever say these names because they give them crazy names. It's Ayumau, I think is the way you say it. Mau. Maybe that's right. Maybe it's not. And when it was about 170 million miles away, or slightly less than a diameter of Earth's orbit, right? So the intention was to measure artificial radio transmission, which, if found, would be a strong evidence that this object is not simply a rock tossed into space at random gravitational slingshot, like a slingshot interaction that would occur within our star system. So they were, this is their quote now. They said, "We were looking for the signal that would prove that this object incorporates some technology and that it was of artificial origin," says Jerry Harp, lead author of the paper to be published in February of 2019, the issue of Acta Astronautica. And then again, they say, "We didn't find any such admission, despite a quite sensitive search. With our observation, don't but while our observations don't conclusively rule out a non-natural origins for this asteroid, they constitute important data in assessing its likely makeup." So, following its discovery in October of 2017, Ayumayu was the subject of popular speculation about a possible non natural origin, largely because it was brought to mind the shape of an interstellar spaceship, and especially one that was talked about in Arthur C. Clarke's novel, Rendezvous with Rama. Its highly elongated shape and the fact that no coma or the tail, like we would see in a comet, was observed strengthen this hypothesis for some, as these are uncharacteristic of the asteroids and comets. So, a recent paper published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters by researchers at Harvard also suggested the possibility that Amiyahu is a deliberate construction. The Harvard researchers argue that the slight unexpected acceleration observed for this object could be caused by pressure from the sunlight and as Anohamu swung around the sun. But their hypothesis is that this object might be a light sail, either deliberately or accidentally sent our way. A deliberate origin is considered somewhat more likely because of our solar system, and it's a very small target for any object that is not being aimed. So, such arguments strengthen the importance of the observations, such as those conducted at the ATA, that contain constraints to the true nature of this floating rock. So, again, observations were made between November 23rd and December 5th in 2017 using wideband correlating uh, these ATA frequencies between 1 and 10 gigahertz, and with the frequency resolution of 100 kilohertz. No signals were found at a level that would be produced by an omnidirectional transmitter on board the object of a power or about 10 watts or more, right? So looking for power sources. In portions of the radio spectrum, they are routinely cluttered by artificial satellite telemetry, and the threshold for detection was higher. In all cases, these limits to the powers that could be detected are quite modest comparably to the citizen band radio, which we talk about AM, FM, and things like that. So basically, they don't know, and this is a very long uh, aspect of what we're seeing. So there's one more instance I want to go over with abnormal radio in the Milky Way. And this is sort of giving me credence into what I'm going to bring up later, right? Now, again, I applaud you all for staying on to this point. And this may need a part two, but I see Rockers has made it here. Great to see you. Great to see you. But this is something that's absolutely wild. Like, we're getting these mysterious types of waves inside of the Milky Way, not just when we're pointing it at other stars. There is radio waves within the Milky Way galaxy that are anomalous at best. So, what is causing these? And I'm going to kind of jump ahead. I'm going to skip this part because I think you understand where I'm trying to go. I'm giving you the SETI data to back up different data or a different data set that is going to collide with what I've told you so far. And it's going to give you a new understanding or a different, broader perspective of what these could potentially be, right? So, this is the person who is working on this project, Dr. Natasha Hurley Walker. She is based out of Australia. She is one of the SETI people, and I bring her up because there are ways to look into more of her work. It is interesting, at least, right? It's anomalous at best, we'll say. But she has a lot that is sort of conflicting to some of the other mainstream avenues that we've seen so far. So what she's doing is I believe she's trying to drip out more information for people to understand. So this is who's responsible for calculating these things. But now I want to give you a galactical view of these signals, right? So first thing we're going to do is talk about radio waves. That's what we're going to do first. So radio waves, we're going to break down what a radio wave is, because to talk about what could potentially be, we have to understand the source material. Radio waves are a type of electromagnetic radiation with wavelengths in the electromagnetic spectrum longer than infrared light. Radio waves have frequencies from 300 gigahertz to as low as 3 kilohertz, and corresponding wavelengths ranging from 1 millimeter to 100 kilometers. Like all other electromagnetic waves, they travel at the speed of light. Naturally occurring radio waves are made by lightning, by an or by astronomical objects. Artificially generated radio waves are used for fixed and mobile radio communication, broadcasting radar, and other navigational systems such as communication satellites, computer networks, and an innumerable other applications. So, radio waves are generated by radio transmitters and are received by radio receivers. So different frequencies of radio waves have different propagation characteristics, especially when it resides to within Earth's atmosphere. Long waves can be diffract around objects like mountains and follow other contours of the Earth, like ground waves. But shorter waves can reflect off the ionosphere and return to Earth beyond the horizon, or the sky waves. While much shorter wavelengths bend or diffract very little and travel on a line of sight, so their propagation distances are limited to the visual horizon. Why is this important? We're going to get there. So, this the study of electromagnetic phenomena such as a reflection, refraction, polarization, diffraction, and absorption is of critical importance in the study of how radio waves move in free space and over the surface of the Earth. Different frequencies experience different combinations of these phenomena in Earth's atmosphere, making certain radio bands more useful or specific purposes than others, right? So, in order to receive radio signals, for instance, from AM or FM radio stations, a radio antenna must be used. However, since the antenna will pick up thousands of radio signals at a time, a radio tuner is necessary to tune in to a particular signal. This is typically done via a resonator, in its simplest form, a circuit with a capacitor, inductor, or crystal oscillator, and many modern radios use this phase locked loop system. So the resonator is configured to resonate at a particular frequency, allowing the tuner to amplify the syn waves at the radio frequency and ignore other syn waves. So usually either the inductor or the capacitor of the resonator is adjustable, allowing the user to change the frequency at which it resonates. Now, the last point of interest on this I want to talk about is the human body is a crystal oscillator and a frequency resonator, which unconsciously picks up and absorbs many different radio waves depending on what station or frequency and the consciousness that that person is tuned into. So let's put it to you this way. Let's bring it back to me for a second, because that explanation opens up what we're talking about. For these people to pick up on a specific band of radio wave or radio signal burst, they would have to tune in and cancel out all of the other signal bursts. How impossible does that sound when they don't know the exact frequency of where it's coming from. Think about it. Think about that. The infinitesimal range of this radio signal coming from outer space is absolutely absurd to think about. And the fact that they can tune into it now, even 6 years later, and find underlining tunes or tones or signals within this array of different frequency signals without understanding the frequency rate as opposed to how it's oscillating. There are so many different variables and factors to hone in on such a specific frequency to say, yes, we've got one. Now, there is technology to do that, but without understanding where the source of whatever the source frequency starting is, it's very, very damn near impossible to have this be something of significance. And if it was, and they were working on this, they would never tell you. They're not in the game of giving away that information. One. So, what is the likely aspect of what they're picking up on? I believe, and it's going to sound wild, that they are picking up on either cosmic entities that are deliberately sending them signals which they can decode and figure out, or what did we just say before, that some signals go to the ionosphere and bounce back, right? And also, our moon is one such facilitator, which, if we believe that the moon is a either a space station or a place where space stations are being built to house frequencies, we know that the mind control frequencies may be coming directly from the moon. Are they picking up on these frequencies as well? Or are they picking up on specific directed energy weapons that are being used on this planet that are giving off a radiating frequency or energy signature that they're now catching with their satellites, telescopes, and whatever else antennas they're using? It begs to be questioned, right? And this is what I mean by understanding that this might be a little bit closer to home than we think. Now, if an alien species wanted to contact Earth via a radio wave, first they would be in our orbit, sending that directly down, right? We know that there are aliens, and with the Pentagon coming out and saying there could potentially be a mothership in our orbit, why would they send a signal all the way across galaxies, universes, all that jazz? Why would they do that? Why would they do that? They wouldn't have to do that. They have ships that can reach us. They have ways to get here that is not needed, right? Long range communication with these entities is almost obsolete. They're here with us. There's different ways to do it. And maybe they're picking up on telepathic thoughts that run through a frequency from the astral realm. There's that aspect as well. And they don't understand what they're picking up on, so they see it as a radio frequency. But again, the human body can pick up on such specific frequencies. And we have modern day science as well as programs at the dark projects such as MK Ultra that show how these frequencies interact with the human body. So to sit there and say that they're coming from outer space, I think is almost asinine or crazy. I would say that they're coming from this planet and reflecting back, and they don't understand where they're coming from because some of these scientists or researchers are not in the knowing of how this negative entity agenda is being played out. Does that make more sense now that we've said it? Now that we've said it all out loud, what the what we're thinking about here? But let's keep going. I've got more. I've got more. So now we're going to talk about radio frequency. You ask yourself why? Because to understand the source material is to understand that it's probably a lot closer to home than we believe it to be. So, radio frequency is, we need to understand the spectrum of frequency in the electromagnetic wave spectrum to be aware of the radio frequency energy. and to help protect ourselves from specific harassments by understanding what is being transmitted into the environment. Radio waves are received and transmitted by antennas and are often tuned by lengths. As an example, an AM radio frequency, their frequencies are so long that an antenna of 100 feet long isn't enough for its full wavelength. And when you look at a television antenna on the roof or a rooftop somewhere, you're seeing a much shorter antenna simply because the frequencies range from 50 megahertz to about 800 megahertz, or just under the analog cell frequency. So radio waves at a lower frequency, which is 50 megahertz or lower, will bounce off the ionosphere and back to Earth. Higher frequencies pass into space, and the radio frequencies at terahertz frequencies, like 1000 megahertz and higher, may pass through metal completely. So the human body emits these types of frequencies from our life force and the energy field around it. So a person's location in a room can be imaged through walls with the right equipment, right? So now we're going into what these signals could potentially be, right? Well, let's get into a little bit further of what these could potentially be, or who's sending them and why, which is truly the explanation we're looking for here. So we know that there's mind control via electromagnetic frequency. And this is what they're picking up on, right? So is it coming from the moon? Is it coming from some spaceship in our orbit trying to capitulate man to its will, right? Which is probably makes a lot more sense than some far off civilization shooting EMF all the way across the world or all the way across the universe just to say hi and wave their hands at us, right? So let's keep going. So, mind control technologies are weapons which use electronic microchip implants or nanotechnologies, microwaves, or electromagnetic waves to subvert an individual's sense of control over their own thinking, behavior, emotions, or decision makings by attacking the brain and the nervous system. The development of these methods and technologies has a long history. So, what are some of the ways that they use this technology that could be bouncing off and giving off a radiating effect that we're picking up with our antennas now? Because there are players at work that are using this frequency or this game of electromagnetic spectrum to capitulate humanity. And they're picking up on the reverberation of how this works. And when they're using these so called weapons or these so called mind control techniques, they're picking up with on their antennas and they think they're making a great discovery out in space, which I think is more the likely product of what we're hearing here. So, as we keep going, many years ago, a method of psychotronic warfare through radio waves and microwave weaponry was perfected to induce sound in the human head from a distance of up to a mile. This devious radio frequency technology has the ability to make someone believe they are a psychotic, or by implanting mind slides and holographic inserts into the person's bioenergetic field or aura. Any person visiting a doctor who tells them that they hear voices or see invisible aliens could easily end up in a hospital and medicated, while branded for life as mentally ill. When we consider that every possible sound or sound effect that has been created, even on a home PC, it would be easy for this technology to be used for nefarious purposes in order to induce unsuspecting people to a variety of different things, whether it be actions or possible contact, right? So we know about Project MK Ultra, but Project MK Ultra was not shut down. The undisclosed technology experimentation of mind control upon the human public, it just changed names. Mind control based technology and psychological warfare has greatly progressed in the last 50 years, far beyond the knowledge of of those whose weapons are actually being used. The rule of thumb is that the military technology advances 44 years for every one calendar year. This RF technology is able to induce mass hallucinations via satellite. Imagine the psychological damage that this could do to an entire crowd of people. It will only be a matter of time before this heinous mind control technology is integrated into so called active denial weapons, which people will be cooking and hearing things that they've never heard before all at once. Right? So, this is important. It's an important point about psychological warfare and mind control weapons, and it's only effective on those who are unaware it is being done to them. So once we understand, or once someone knows about them, that they could potentially be a target with this mind control technology, their effectiveness is forever lost. So, do I believe that they're picking up on radio signals? Probably not. I believe that they're picking up reverberated signals that are going back. We're going to talk about the V2K voice to skull in just a few moments. But what we're seeing is when they're using these weapons, there is a reverberating factor, an extra um, radius of collected frequency that's bouncing off the ionosphere and back to our antennas that are being picked up on at SETI. This is a much more plausible explanation than contact. Now, is contact still possible? Absolutely. I am not denying the fact that there could potentially be contact. But with all the different ways that people are receiving contact now, why would they go to all of this, you know, all of this energy buildup to disperse it in a radio wave that's traveling all the way across the universe? Doesn't make sense, right? So, next we're going to talk about mind slide, or a cognitive dissonance, as I like to call some of it. It may not be something that is, it could be inherently influencing on the cognitive dissonance. So, mind slide programs is when human beings completely ignore unapproved words or terms or issues that involve their enslavement or torture, even if they come to face with it. Mind slides are a form of mind control and sometimes consciousness sweeping to erase memories that could be implemented through radio waves that form frequencies that transmit into the person's unconscious mind, or into their bioenergetic field. So, how do they go about using these specific radio waves? It's called ELF radio waves. So, these ELF radio waves are almost not visible, right? Some can be picked up, but most have to be honed in on. And a lot of these frequencies that they say that they're picking up are on the lower end of the spectrum, which again leads me back to the fact that this could be a potential radiating effect from these specific uh, mind control wipes or sweeps. So, extremely low frequency is the designation for electromagnetic radiation waves with frequencies of 3 to 30 hertz and corresponding wavelengths from 100,000 to 10,000 kilometers. In atmospheric science, an alternative definition is given from 3 hertz to 3 kilohertz. And these ELF waves can also penetrate significant distances into the earth or rock. And through the earth, underground mind communication systems use these frequencies. The frequency of alternating current flowing in electrical power grids is 50 to 60 hertz and also falls within the ELF bandwidth, making power grids an unintentional source of this ELF radiation. So, two areas of the body, the eyes and of course the testes, can be particularly susceptible to the heating of these RF energy because of the relative lack of available blood flow to dissipate the existence of this heat load. So, I know this sounds like we're going off a little bit like on a tangent and kind of honing in on this, but there's something called electronic harassment, which is we're going to talk about. But there's even more extremely low frequencies that are high power, which could reach across the universe if needed be. So this could be those negative entities across across the entire side of the universe, sending these mind control frequencies for us to pick up on. And these SETI people at the antennas are either lying to us or they're picking up on the radiation that this specific agenda is playing out. And I think that again, It's absolutely insane that we're a lot of people are going to dismiss this broadcast within their cognitive dissonance, right? They're going to use this and say, you know what? That's not true. This guy's reaching. He's reaching right now. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. But putting this all together is something that they probably don't want you to hear. So I'm not even sure how long this specific episode might be up. I might be crossing boundaries that I probably shouldn't, but who knows? This is important to understand and understand how the mind control works. And this is part of the plan. That's the Great Awakening is a direct opposition to this. The Ascension is a direct opposition to what we're talking about right now. And again, it's a little dark, but to understand it means that its effectiveness is no longer pertinent to you anymore. To know it means it has no bearing on your well-being anymore, and that's the mission. That's the project we're working on right here. So let's keep going. So next we're going to talk about extremely low frequency RF. And this is showing you the extremely low frequency right here. So it's on a chart, you can understand it, and this comes from the towers, right? This is what we're seeing here. So this high powered, extremely low frequency with an electrical field levels in a low kVm range are known to induce perceivable currents within the human body that create an annoying tingling sensation. These currents typically flow through the ground and they flow through the body contact to the surface, such as our feet, or arc to the ground where the body is well insulated. And this is the main usage of this mind control manipulation, which becomes part of the electronic harassment, the silent sound subliminal mind control. This is the voice to skull V2K. This is what we were talking about. This does tremendous damage. Tremendous damage. So, electronic harassment is purported use of electromagnetic waves to harass, terrorize, or mind control a victim. Psychologists have identified evidence of auditory hallucinations, delusional disorders, or other mental illnesses in online communities supporting those who claim to be targeted individuals. And these individuals suffering from auditory hallucinations, delusional disorders, or other mental illnesses have claimed that their government agents make use of this electric field. The microwaves, such as the microwave auditory effect, and the radar to transmit sound and thoughts into their heads, referring to a technology that they can achieve with this voice to skull or V2K after an obsolete military designation. So, this is essentially what we refer to as a direct energy weapon. Oh man, it's crazy how they do these things, and there is so much activity around what we know is happening, and people are becoming aware of this. And it's up to us as communities to really become a shield for those who, you know, are having this effect take part in their life. And we can use our combined energies to create tribal shields that essentially make this null and void for the masses. And this is part of what meditation sessions do, is collectively make our energy. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to stop here because I don't want to go too far into the designations of what we're talking about. But this is what we do. And really, what we can do is we can build up the tolerance to this, and we can make sure that this has no effect on anybody anymore. And it's our inherent duty to do so. And I wouldn't say all channelers get this information in this way, and that these targeted individuals are all channelers either. There are good and light. There's good and light, and then there's dark and evil. We know this. So some are getting contact with the light, but some are getting contact with the evil. And we have to understand that it is that person who has to decide what they're going up against and what they're being in contact with. So, channeled information, while I don't always agree with it, there are certain instances where it is absolutely beneficial to understand it. But this information is known. What we just talked about just now is all it's all described in patents across the United States. They have this patented. Did you see what I showed you on the last one? Look at this. You see at the bottom there? It says a patent number. This has been patented by the US military and probably some other militaries as well. So, as of 1992. So, this is not channeled information. This is direct information from archives at the CIA, the FBI that have been declassified for the public. So we see that there is such instances happening. And it brings me back to the beginning. These people are receiving signals that they have no idea where they're coming from. And because they focused it on a certain area in space, doesn't mean that that's coming from that directed area in space. They could be picking up residual stuff that's coming from the moon, that's coming from a different planet, coming from a ship in orbit, or coming from the Earth itself, bouncing off the ionosphere and back down towards the Earth. It's there. Look, I'm going to show you one more slide to show you what I'm talking about, right? You see how this works? This is part of the active denial system. It goes up, comes down, could be from a satellite. This was the last slide, but I don't think we should be getting into what this describes because, maybe we'll do something on Rumble about it, but not here. So, truly, this is what we're talking about. And we have to understand how this all works. And now that we all know, the more help we can be to others to inform them about this information. And again, if you haven't liked, shared, or subscribed, please do all three. And also leave a comment when this is finished so that we can get this info far and wide. It is our duty to spread information, whether we believe it or not. Let the eye of the beholder be the judge. We have to put it out there for others to create discernment and to peel back the onion to all the layers that exposes all of these frequency manipulations so that we can awaken the masses. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And it is up to us. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. The information is the activation. And if not us, then who? And it is our time to do such for the entirety of humanity. My name is Rob Yox. This is Full Spectrum Universe. I hope this information found you with love and abundance. I love you all. This has been an amazing broadcast. Please, again, leave a comment when this is finished so that we can get this out as far as we can, right? Share this on all social media platforms. That's how we keep one foot in the system and have one foot out. Know when to penetrate and share and know when to come back out and do our meditations. That's how we create that change. That's how we create that difference that we want to see. So I know I'm a little excited at the end, but this gets me excited because we're helping. This is all about helping, not about hurting anymore. Nobody's going to be hurt on our watch anymore. We are the healers of the future, and we're all going to do it together. So I love you all. I hope this found you in a good space. Again, my thoughts and prayers go out to you, Sugar Bee. I'm praying for you and your whole family. We love you. We can't wait to see you back. Take your time. You know, it's a tough situation. So we love you and keep your head up. We're here for you. If you need anything, you can always reach out. Thank you all so much. I love you all, and I'll see you all soon. Have a great night.